Have you wondered why the World Health Organization designated a full week for breastfeeding awareness? Why is there a lot of emphasis on the need to exclusively breastfeed a child for the first 180 days or 6 months of life? What are the components of breast milk? And what will happen if a child is not breastfed? Welcome. Let's talk health. My name is Dr. Laz Eze. This segment is going to be weekly, and we'll be discussing different health issues, mainly the tips and things we need to know. So because breastfeeding is important, it's the first thing every one of us, get to consume when we come to life, because it's been proven to be one of the most effective ways to ensure optimal child survival. Every study had proven that. So exclusive breastfeeding simply means that a child is given breast milk only in the first 6 months or the first 180 days of life. What's the components of breast milk? If you get a breast milk, let's say you break it down into 100, the components into 100. 87 of that will be water. 7 will be carbohydrates. You remember your classes of food, your classes of food. Protein will be 1 portion. Lipids will be 4. And the remaining 1 will be combination of minerals, vitamins, trace elements, and all the things that help the child to grow. So do you now understand why mothers are discouraged from giving a baby water, especially in the first 6 months of life? Because 87% of the breast milk is simply water. God, in His infinite mercies, had prepared this special food because He doesn't want to hear stories. We don't want to be like, oh, this one is rich, this one is poor, they can't afford what the child needs. Of course, those of you that buy baby formula, you know how expensive it is. Imagine after birth, a child has to depend on that without breast milk. So nature has already solved that problem of nutrition for the child. Let's talk about the benefits of breastfeeding. Number 1, it is clean. That's the breast milk. Number 2, it is very safe. Number 3, it contains antibodies that help the child immune system to fight off germs. And that's why those who don't breastfeed, or those who mix water and other things to breastfeeding, especially in the first 6 months of life, those children usually fall sick more often than those who are exclusively breastfed. Number 4, a child that takes breast milk is less likely going to be overweight or to have obesity later in life. Number 5, a child that takes breast milk, especially those that are exclusively breastfed, is less likely going to have diabetes mellitus, especially type 2. Studies have shown that. Number 6, mothers who breastfeed are less likely going to have ovarian cancer or breast cancer. And number 7, breastfeeding have enough nutrients to help in the growth of the brain of the child. And children who are exclusively breastfed are more likely going to be more brilliant in school. Who know what make me pick in sabi book? Let that child be breastfed. So for how long are you supposed to breastfeed? 24 months, that's 2 years. How many children around you were breastfed for 2 years? Especially the second baby, usually the gap between the first child and the second child is usually less than 2 years for a lot of persons, but the World Health Organization and the Federal Ministry of Health of Nigeria recommends breastfeeding for 2 years. So first 6 months exclusive, like I keep repeating, and at the 6 months, you begin to introduce other food, pap, semi-solid food, and all of that. But take notes, you must prepare them in very clean plates or cups and use spoon to breastfeed the child. It is not recommended for children to put those suckers, because you think they breastfeed very often. Because the breast milk belongs to them and they must be given at will. I know it's easier said than done anyway. And shout out to all the mothers, all the women who do this so very well. It's not easy. The men, yes, they don't breastfeed, but they must be very supportive, especially at night. You know, for the first 6 months, babies most time they sleep during the day, they wake up at night multiple times to breastfeed. So those environments to support the women and all of that must be created. We'll talk about breastfeeding at the workplace, but not before talking about certain contraindications. In which situations will you not breastfeed a child? Okay, let's talk about situations in a baby. Number one, if a baby has esophageal atresia. Esophageal atresia is the esophagus is not fully formed, or if you have what we call esophagotracheal fistula, there is a connection between the esophagus that conveys food and the trachea that conveys air to the lungs. If there is a connection, you can't breastfeed the child because the breast milk will move to the lungs and make the child to choke, cause pneumonia, cause infection of the lungs. The second condition in a baby that will make that baby not to breastfeed is if that baby has what we call galactosemia. Galactosemia is an inherited disorder caused by certain mutations in the genes that makes it impossible for the body to break down the sugar known as galactose, allowing it to build up in the body up to toxic levels. Is something that can lead to the death of the child. So breast milk or dairy products, any form of dairy product, is not given in persons with such condition. The third situation in a baby is if that baby has imperforate anus. That means that the anus is not open. In that situation, you can't breastfeed because the child will not be able to poo and pass out, some waste product. Also, if there is intestinal obstruction from other causes, any form of intestinal obstruction, you will not breastfeed that baby. So these are conditions in the baby. So we'll now think of what are the things that may be happening to a mother that would make breastfeeding not desirable. So let's round up this talk with those things that will be happening to the mother that will make breastfeeding not desirable. Number one, if the woman has HIV and is not receiving treatment or any of the antiretroviral therapy, or if she is receiving treatment but has not achieved viral suppression, then you don't breastfeed. Number two, if the mother has Lassa fever, untreated tuberculosis or leprosy, if the mother has Mpox, it used to be known as monkeypox. If the woman is infected brucellosis, you cannot breastfeed. If the woman is a drug abuse person, a drug user, use of opioids, you cannot breastfeed. And also, if the woman has psychosis, has mental illness, it's not advisable to allow her to breastfeed because, may hurt the child in the process. Women who are treating cancer, who are on chemotherapy, are also not supposed to breastfeed. And those who are undergoing some radio imaging, some diagnostic imaging like radiopharmaceuticals, are not encouraged to breastfeed. Of course, those who are pregnant. I know this one is tricky because a lot of women, especially between the first and second child, they are still breastfeeding their first baby, they are already pregnant for the second baby and all of that. The thing is, naturally, during breastfeeding, the sucking reflex triggers the production of oxytocin, and that oxytocin kind of may also lead to the contraction of the uterus. So for some persons, it may actually lead to miscarriage. Not everybody, but if you have a baby and you're breastfeeding and you're pregnant, the chances of having miscarriage, especially within the first 3 months of life, is very high just because of the hormone oxytocin that's produced during breastfeeding that may also lead to the contraction of the uterus. So these are the conditions that breastfeeding might not be desirable. But besides this, there might be so many other questions going through your mind. I'm afraid we may not be able to take questions live on this show, but feel free to ask health workers near you, and also ask your doctors any question, anything bothering you that you don't understand. The last message here is breastfeeding is key and is the most important meal, the most important thing you do for a child. Workers, employers, please make the workplace conducive for mothers to be able to breastfeed. My name is Dr. Lars Eze. See you next week.